Today's topic is U.S. versus Roman citizenship. In 6th grade, you began to learn a lot about Rome, and in 7th grade, our very first unit is the fall of Rome. In order to see how Rome falls, though, we need to do a little bit of review. And the first piece of Roman history that we're going to look at is citizenship. Who could be a citizen? What were their roles and responsibilities within society? For today's activity, what you'll need is your U.S. versus Roman citizenship sheet that was given out in class. Now, if you don't have your sheet or you would prefer to type, or maybe you weren't here today, you can also access this sheet as a Google Doc through the link that I've posted with this video. And your sheet will look like this. So you'll see today we have 3 questions to outline, as well as a T-chart to fill in. Remember, you should be recording information in shorthand. There's no need for you to write everything out. These are your notes, so as long as you are going to recognize what it is that you meant, use abbreviations, use shorthand. I would suggest that you use a pencil in case you make any mistakes. Now let's take a look at our essential questions. Through this short video, we are going to find out what a citizen is, who qualifies in the United States as a citizen, what rights and responsibilities do U.S. citizens have. We'll also look at who qualified as a Roman citizen and what rights and responsibilities Roman citizens had. Most likely, you have a little bit of background knowledge on both topics. Being a U.S. citizen, you should have some idea of what it's all about. And from 6th grade, you should know a little bit about Roman citizenship. So we're going to compare the two today. The first part is, well, what is citizenship? We really can't talk about the roles and responsibilities of citizens in the U.S. or in ancient Rome unless we know what citizenship is. So the first question on your sheet is to define who or what a citizen is. Definitions need to go in our own words. First of all, it's going to help us remember what it means. And second of all, if it's not in our own words, it is considered plagiarism. So what I always like to do is go to a reliable source. So today, let's look at dictionary.com. We've typed in citizen, and it gives us a variety of answers. Now, the first one is really what we're looking for. And the definition here is a native or naturalized member of a state or nation who owes allegiance to its government and is entitled to its protection. Now, it's your job to put that definition into your own words, something that you are going to remember. And hopefully it goes something along the lines of a member of a state or nation who owes allegiance to its government and is in turn entitled to government protection, which again is that example from dictionary.com. If you're having a really hard time coming up with your own definition, you can always cite this definition by giving credit to dictionary.com. You can put it in quotations. Now that we know what a citizen is, we can start to look at roles and responsibilities of citizens. And we're going to start out with U.S. citizens. So in the United States, any ideas who can be a citizen? You might be surprised by the answer. And that answer really is anyone. Whether you're born in the United States or you become a naturalized citizen, you are a citizen. Your gender, your race, your wealth, your social position, your religion, political stance, your job, that doesn't determine your citizenship at all. Whether you're a man or a woman or a child, whether you're young or you're old, you're rich or you're poor, any religion, any political stance, you can still become a citizen of the United States. Now, the 2 different types we've mentioned here are those born in the United States and those who are not born in the United States. And these are called native versus naturalized citizens. So if you were born in the US or you were born to American parents, even if they were traveling when you were born, you're considered a native citizen from birth. On the other hand, if you emigrated to the United States, you can take a test and an oath of allegiance to the United States and its laws, and become what's called a naturalized citizen. Again, whether you're native or naturalized, you have the same rights and responsibilities in the United States. Do U.S. citizens have rights and responsibilities? Well, if you've heard anything about the Bill of Rights or the Constitution, you know that, yes, U.S. citizens have rights which they receive from the government, as well as responsibilities, which is kind of like our payment back to the government. What's important to note is that all U.S. citizens have the same rights and responsibilities. Again, whether you're native or naturalized, whether you're rich or poor, young or old, man or a woman, you have the same rights. So let's get a few examples of a right and a responsibility because they are different. Now, a right, again, is something that the government gives to its citizens. So in the United States, we have freedom of speech, we have freedom of religion, freedom of press, freedom of assembly, we have a trial by our jury, many, many more rights. A lot of times people also call these our freedoms. On the other hand, to weigh out having all those rights, we also do have our responsibilities. And again, responsibilities is like what we owe back to the government. So for example, a responsibility of a citizen is to provide impartial judgment as a jury member. You may have heard your parents talking about going to jury duty. This is their responsibility as citizens. Citizens are also expected to pay their taxes, which go to fund government programs. They're expected to respect local, state, and federal laws. They're also expected to vote. Voting is a right and a responsibility. And finally, to serve in the military. Now that we've reviewed and outlined who are citizens, roles and responsibilities in the United States, for part 2, when we look at our comparison chart, we're going to have to access some information from 6th grade. Now, let's go look at your sheet. Your chart looks just like this one here. And you'll see that we have 2 main focuses. We're comparing U.S. citizenship to Roman citizenship. And what we're looking at specifically is who can be a citizen and do all citizens have rights and responsibilities. You'll see the U.S. side is filled out for you with the information that we just reviewed together. So you don't need to add anything into that U.S. side. Instead, we're going to be focusing on the Roman side of things. So let's take a look. Here we go is our chart. You'll see in my presentation, I've divided it between 2 slides so it fits better and we can see easier. Now our Roman citizenship side is blank. Our U.S. side is filled in. So let's get started. In ancient Rome, only men living in the city of Rome were given citizenship at first. Later on in Roman history, all men of a certain level of wealth were considered citizens. But in contrast, largely to the United States, women, children, and slaves were never considered citizens within the Roman Empire. Not only were women, children, and slaves not considered as citizens, the few men that did meet the qualifications of a citizen were broken down into 3 different groups. They were the patricians, the plebeians, and the commons. These should sound familiar to you because you did learn about them in 6th grade. Now, we've defined who could be a citizen. Our next task is to look at, did these citizens have rights and responsibilities? So when we look at the U.S. side first, we've gone over that U.S. citizens have the same rights and responsibilities. And again, you'll see we've listed a few examples of each. Things are a little different in Rome. Citizens did not have the same rights or responsibilities. Each class of citizen had different rights and responsibilities to the government. So for patricians, these were the wealthy landowners. They could hold government offices and serve in the Senate, the legislature, the lawmaking body. The patricians, as the wealthiest, have the most rights and responsibilities. So they have the most freedom within Rome. Then we have the plebeians. Less wealthy than the patricians. They don't own land. Typically, they're merchants, they're traders, they have a business. They were not allowed to hold government office or serve in the Senate, but they could become members of the assemblies. So they had a little bit of freedom, not as much as the patricians. The last group we have here are the commons. And again, these are our poorest citizens. They had the fewest rights. They could not serve in the Senate or the assemblies. So when we look at the two, US citizenship and Roman citizenship, it should become apparent that while there are many similarities between ancient Rome and the government type of the United States, citizenship is a big point of difference, with US citizens having more equality, more rights, and more responsibilities within their government without the restrictions that the Roman citizens experienced. Now you can replay this video as many times as you need to in order to fill in your worksheet. Please remember, shorthand is fine. There's no reason to write this much. I'll see you tomorrow.